This happened just last week. I am a female college student and I live in a dorm on campus. Due to COVID-19, we have had to have classes mainly online. I only have 2 in-person classes. Anyways, most of my online classes meet through Zoom. I had an econ class where we were having a meeting and the professor broke us into small groups to discuss a topic. There was probably between 50 to 100 kids in that class. I'm not really sure, but I know there was a lot, so we would go into these breakout rooms occasionally where there would be about 5 to 10 of us to discuss topics or do group work. As soon as we got into the groups, I noticed one of the kids in my group had on a creepy looking Scream mask. I knew it was some kid trying to be funny, so I told him nice mask and then got on with the discussion. He didn't respond when the rest of us started talking and remained quiet the entire time. We all got kind of annoyed with him and I outright asked him if he was going to do anything. He still didn't answer and just stared at the screen. Eventually, I told him he should just leave. He stayed there and continued to be quiet. Class ended a short time after that. Later that day, I was on my laptop doing homework and I got a Zoom call from a name that I didn't recognize. It was early in the semester and I wanted to see who it was, so I accepted the call. It was the kid in the mask again. When I opened the call, he was just staring at the screen. I quickly turned my camera off. Then he said something in the chat. He outright stated that he wanted to kill me. I thought this must be one of my friends messing with me, although I was unsure of how they would be able to do all of this. I asked who it was, and the person lifted their mask just so I could see their mouth and a little bit of their nose. It wasn't much, but I didn't recognize it as anyone that I knew at all. Then they lowered their mask back down and ended the call. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of creeped out. I texted a few of my friends and told them about what had happened. Some of them thought it was funny, but others seemed to think it was a serious thing. At almost midnight, I was just about to go to bed when I got another Zoom call from the same person. I was pretty irritated at this point, and I answered. I immediately said to the person, whoever it was, that if this was a joke, it wasn't funny, and I was tired of their nonsense. Then I said if they called me again, I was going to report them. They didn't respond, but just stared at the screen. This time, I noticed that the person calling was not on a computer like before, but seemed to be on a phone and was walking. They didn't acknowledge me at all until they typed something in the chat. It said, "Look out your door." I went over to the door of my dorm room and peeked out the peephole. Sure enough, I saw the Scream mask staring right back at me. I jumped back after seeing it. I asked the person, "Who are you?" They said to open the door. I told them they needed to leave now or I was going to call the police. I was hoping that would scare them off, but as soon as I said that, instead of leaving, they began trying to open the door. Thankfully, I had locked it. They knocked on the door, but then began jiggling it with the lock. It sounded like they were trying to pick it. My dorm building was fairly old and still used a lock and key instead of your student ID card like some buildings did, so I was afraid they might be able to get in. I decided to call the police. I picked up the phone and then called. They said they were on their way. The man in the mask continued to jiggle the lock. I sat in the back corner of the room just watching the knob jiggle, hoping that it wouldn't open. But about a minute later, my biggest fear came true, and I heard the lock click and saw the door slowly open up. The man in the mask walked in. I told him I had called the police. He didn't seem to care though. He slowly closed the door behind him and then started approaching me. As he was slowly walking towards me, he removed his mask fully from his head. It was a guy who looked to be college-aged, but I didn't recognize him at all. He kept getting slowly closer and closer. Then I heard several footsteps coming to the doorway and saw the police. They were able to get the man before he got to me in just enough time. He turned out to actually be a student that went to the university and was actually in my class. It was the creepiest thing that's ever happened to me. A couple of months ago, I was talking to my friend Brooke on Zoom. We have known each other for a long time and grew up together, but recently, after graduating college, we went our separate ways and live on opposite ends of the country from each other. We tried to FaceTime or Zoom call at least once a week to stay in touch. We were talking on one night mainly about our jobs and life in general. We started joking around, and then I went to go get some food. I came back to my computer about 2 or 3 minutes later. When I arrived back at my screen, I could see that Brooke was gone from hers. I assumed she went to the bathroom or got something herself, and I sat there and waited. About 5 minutes went by, and she still didn't return, so I called out for her. I didn't hear a response, so then I texted her on her phone. But when I sent the text, I noticed her phone was still on her desk, because I saw it vibrate on my screen. She hadn't taken her phone with her. I waited a few more minutes, and she still didn't return. I just sat there on my phone, looking through Instagram and eating. Then all of a sudden, I saw Brooke appear on my screen, running towards me, coming from her hallway. She appeared to be in a panic and looked like she had been crying. She looked at me briefly and then grabbed her phone from the desk and ran away again. I called out to her, but she ignored me. At that point, I decided to call her on her phone, but I got a busy signal. I kept calling her until finally she responded to me with a text saying that she would call me back later. I was extremely worried and curious as to what happened, and finally around an hour later, she did call me back. What she explained was that when I got up to get my food on our Zoom call, she went to go get some as well, but when she was about to enter her kitchen, she saw a man hiding under the kitchen table in her apartment. She couldn't tell if he noticed her or not, so she ran into her bedroom and locked the door, not realizing that she didn't have her phone on her. Then, over the next few minutes, she heard the man moving around her apartment, even trying her doorknob 2 times, which she had locked. When she didn't hear him for a few minutes, she took a chance and ran back to her desk to get her phone before running back into her room and calling the police. They arrived 20 minutes later to find the man in her guest bedroom, hiding in a closet. He turned out to be homeless. I couldn't believe all of this was going on in the time that I called her, and I'm so glad that she's all right. The school year has just recently started for me. I am a high school junior, and we've had to start off the year with all online classes. So while my parents go to work, I stay home and go to classes on my laptop in my bedroom. Oftentimes, teachers will send the Zoom link through email, and you click it to join the class. One morning, I woke up and was extremely tired, which wasn't uncommon for me. I had stayed up late the night before playing video games. I rolled out of bed and walked to my desk. Then I opened my laptop to check my email. Sure enough, there was an email with the Zoom link, and I clicked on it. Zoom appeared to be opening up, but was taking an unusually long time to load. Just as I was about to go click something on the screen, it went all black, and then all bright green. Then I was taken to a strange-looking web page. It looked like Zoom, but in a warped way. The quality was very low, and the squares where the people's heads would be were all distorted. I tried to move my cursor around, but it was frozen. Despite the low quality, I could see that I was being shown on the screen as well. I couldn't really make out anyone else's face on the screen except my own. I was so confused and had no idea what was going on. I tried pressing escape and then Ctrl-Alt-Delete on my keyboard, but nothing would happen when I did. Then a message was sent into the chat. It said welcome and then said my name. I tried typing, but my cursor was still frozen. I said out loud to myself, "What is going on?" Then I heard a deep voice say, "What do you mean, what's going on?" It sounded like somebody's voice that was put into a voice changer to make it sound warped. At that point, I realized that whoever was on this could hear me and see me. I got some tape from my desk and covered up my webcam. Then strange gibberish started being typed in the chat. I was too creeped out and decided to turn off my computer. I pushed the power button, but still nothing happened. I was starting to panic. Finally, I reached underneath the laptop and removed the battery, and it lost power. I didn't attend any of my online classes that day, and later told them I had technical problems. When my dad got home from work, I told him all about what happened. We went back to my computer and turned it on, and it was back to normal. However, I saw the email link that I had clicked was not actually from my school, but a random email account. I didn't have any more problems after that until a couple of days later when I got a text message from a random number. It was an image. When I opened it, I saw it was a picture of myself taken from my webcam. That was just a few days ago, and nothing else has happened. I'm hoping it stays that way.